32 years of age. He's just penned a new contract to Real Madrid last November for 5 years with a $1 billion buyout clause. Obviously, no one's going to pay $1 billion for
$1 billion?
However...
What did you say? $1 billion?
Yes, $1 billion. You take a look at it, though. Is it really the end of the world if Real Madrid lose him?
Well, as Sid pointed out, they're going to have to move on at some point, but we should remember this is a guy who scored a hat-trick and back-to-back quarter-final and semi-final, and then 2 in the final, when 6 months to 12 months ago after the Euros, we have
180 million for Ronaldo. Let's just put that figure there. With that money, I can bring in Mbappe, I can bring in Donnarumma, and I can start really to build for the future. Yeah. Ronaldo's stock is going to fall at some stage, so why not cash in now throughout all of this?
It seems we were having this discussion just a week ago when the Chinese reportedly had that bid table. Whether that's true or not, the discussion, the points raised was pertinent then and pertinent right now. He will move on. At some point, you've got to... There will be life after Ronaldo. Just as with Barcelona, there'll be life after Lionel Messi. Why not start planning for that right now? And don't get me wrong, as much as it'll be great to have Ronaldo on board for the next 5 years or whatever it may be, it's not the end of the world if he moves on now. I don't think it's good for the club's brand, for their image, if he moves on under contentious circumstances. But he will move on, contentious or not, at some point.
I want to bring Ian Darke into the conversation because inevitably Manchester United fans have got excited over the last few hours because they've always had a great relationship with Cristiano Ronaldo. He had such a successful time at Old Trafford, and there's always been a hint that maybe he'd like to go back to Manchester United. Ian, do you think it's worthwhile, from United's point of view, let's just put that figure, £150 million, say, to come in, to buy Cristiano Ronaldo at 32 years of age? If you were United, would you seriously look into this?
Well, they've lost Zlatan Ibrahimovic, haven't they? And
yes.
So far, they haven't got Alvaro Morata. Now, it will prick up the ears of Manchester United, and maybe they could afford this because there are all kinds of financial spin-offs from signing Cristiano Ronaldo and ways of clawing back the money. But he's in serious hot water, isn't he? By the sound of it, from everything Sid's been saying, serious hot water. I think what we've heard from him today is maybe a clarion call, hoping that Real Madrid can exert some kind of influence to get him out of that corner. Now, as for Manchester United, I don't know, Manchester City, of course, and Chelsea, I think they'd be the only other 2 clubs from England who could get involved. But it's a huge, huge commitment. The one thing I'd say about Cristiano is, and we saw it, didn't we, in the Champions League, quarter-final, semi-final, final, he was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. He's still in brilliant condition. He's looked after himself. He might be 32, but he's like a 28-year-old. I still think he's got 2 or 3 big seasons left in him.
But how could somebody buy him? How on earth is someone going to buy him if potentially this case rumbles on? This case could rumble on for months, a year, maybe 2 years, where he may have to be regular.
Well, this is true. It's just because he leaves the country, they will go, oh, don't worry about that.
That's the thing.
So, how can you go to a club in a particular country and not be affected? That club shells out big money, big wages to get one of the world's greatest ever players, and all of a sudden he's hot-footing it back to Spain every whatever it is because he's got this hanging over him. I just don't see how it works. Or
somebody pays a rather ridiculous, well, maybe nobody pays $1 billion, but somebody pays an extortionate transfer fee. They don't have any kind of, or they do have agreements with the Spanish authorities. So after you pay all this money for him in terms of a transfer fee, in 2 years' time, he has to do, he's found guilty and has to do time. How, as a club, do you cater for that risk? I'm not sure how you take that on.
Sid, just going back to this Manchester United potential move, what was his relationship like with Jose Mourinho at the end at Real Madrid?
Well, that's the other question mark in all of this, is that as you're talking about Manchester United, a club, as you rightly say, that he's always been extremely fond of. But, and I think we saw this in the Champions League final, the fondness of the relationship was anchored on Sir Alex Ferguson. And he's no longer the manager, and the manager is Jose Mourinho, and as you've just hinted at there in the question, his relationship by the end with Mourinho was difficult. It wasn't good. And so, I mean, look, if you put those two together and they've got a common goal and they're both trying to win things and they're both extremely competitive men and extremely professional men in very, very many ways, then perhaps it would work. But yeah, I think that's another reason to doubt this. And I think your point as well is a very significant one. If this is an irritation of what's happening in Spain, you don't leave Spain and go, it's done. This problem doesn't go away by changing clubs. And it's very difficult to see what the solution to this now is, except that perhaps, you know, kind of everyone forgets it and just gets on with life as it was yesterday.
That kind of draws me to my question to you, Sid. How do you think this will end?
I mean, I really don't know, because I must admit that there is a little bit of me, there's a bit of me that suspects that somewhere in this, Real Madrid could well be thinking this isn't such a bad thing. That you know, this is potentially a very difficult problem with the whole accusation of tax fraud that we would no longer have as our problem if he was to depart. This is a player who is still brilliant, and I agree completely with Ian that this is a player who probably has got 2 or 3 very, very, very good indeed years left in him. But at some stage you're going to have to replace him, and at that point you would be replacing him for free. So is there a temptation that says, well, let's do it now? You know, it's not ideal. Maybe we'd rather wait a year or two. Maybe we'd rather this never happens and he retires at the club and everyone's happy. But that's a lot of money potentially coming in. But, of course, you've got to find a buyer. You've got to find someone he wants to go to. There's a little bit of me that still can't help but think that the way this ends is that it just kind of doesn't. It just goes away. It gets forgotten about. But it's gone quite a long way today, this.
Yeah, it has, which is... we can be thankful for that, Sid. I mean, what we need now is Messi to say he's leaving Barcelona, and so just to keep the boys going for a while. I mean, it is a huge story, isn't it? I mean, it's a massive... Take away the outside of the football shenanigans and allegations, because that's for a different side of things.
The tax.
Let's look at the football issues here. One of the greatest players of this generation has just said, after one of the most successful seasons for his club and for him again, he just said, I want out of here. I mean, and we've just, what, a week, and he's at the Confed Cup as well, isn't he? So he's over in Russia, he's still playing, he's still in the spotlight, he's still in the focus. I mean, just when you think, what the hell are we going to talk about this summer? Pops a story.
He's going to get 23 months and 29 days, and everybody's happy.
You think that's that,
chap? Yeah, we say nothing.